I always say to dads, fathers, and male caregivers, the one thing you can't buy back is your time. Sorry to say, but not even Elon Musk can buy his time back. Sorry to say that. What is up, everybody? It is Ed Gow Jr. from Dad Central, and I'm dealing with the red man today. The red man in his red, in his red hoodie. What is up, Drew?
Does that mean I call you Method Man?
Oh, boom, 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 boom. Drew's got some hip hop. Oh boy, we're gonna have to do an episode about Drew and his hip hop journey. Okay.
Yeah, way back when. No, I've already told that story when I was 13 about my mom, listening to my Method Man CD. Anyways, for another day.
Wow. Okay, yes, absolutely. How we doing?
Good. You?
Outstanding. Always great to have the opportunity to educate, enlighten, empower, entertain fathers and their families. So I'm looking forward to another great episode today. And yourself?
Yeah, looking forward to it too. I think I'm in the thick of some of what we're going to talk about, so it'll be very relevant.
There you go. Well, I believe that every father, almost all fathers during their father journey are at least in this zone at least once, probably multiple times. What we're talking about today is how dads can balance work and fatherhood while reducing stress. Why do you think that's important, Drew?
Here's 4 quick reasons why. 56% of working dads feel guilty about not spending enough time with their children, according to Harvard Business Review. And 40% of fathers report inadequate sleep due to balancing work and family time. That's from the National Sleep Foundation. 60% of workers, including fathers, experience significant job stress, according to the American Psychological Association. And 45% of fathers say their work-life balance negatively impacts their relationships with their partners and children. And that's from the Fatherhood Institute. I mean, those stats, I think, are straightforward.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
That's why it's important.
Absolutely. Well, as we get into today's conversation, we want to also say that we're going to provide you with some takeaways from this today. And 3 takeaways we're going to provide you with, those who are listening or watching: prioritize with intention, manage stress effectively, and then focus on presence, not just time. Drew, do you want to give a quick little story before we get right into it today, or do you just want to go right in?
Let's go right into it.
Okay. All right. So let's first talk about prioritization. Our first area today, focusing on what truly matters. What about this myth about having it all, and why balance is about intentional choices?
Well, we could say the myth of having it all. I also like to say the myth of balance. And so to answer the question, intentional choices, because I prefer the term work-life integration. You're integrating these different elements of your life appropriately so that you are as present, as available, as productive, as valuable as you can be in all aspects of your life. And so for me, when I would say it's the myth of balance. And the more you integrate your life, the more it actually feels like you actually do get all that matters to you. So I wouldn't actually say that's a myth. I'd flip it the other way.
Wow. When did you incorporate the integration? Just out of curiosity, because and it's funny because when I'm out having conversations, when I hear about balance, you come up in the back of my mind going, Ed, integration, not balance.
Yeah, I think it's been an evolution over time. And really, I think this first idea of integration came from when we had a conversation with my good friend Paul Attia. I think we were doing a webinar back in 2020 or 2021, and it was about this same topic. And the thought of a scale, let's level on both sides. The moment that anything shifts, it becomes essentially out of balance. And to me, that mindset is one that's saying that if unless everything is perfectly in balance, something's wrong. And the reality is that life isn't like that. Life has ebbs and flows, ups and downs, periods of peak or high intensity that you actually have to be able to meet those demands. But does that mean that something's wrong? No. It just means you have more on your plate, or more energy that's required in certain areas. And the reality to think that something's wrong, I think, sets you into the wrong headspace. What it means is that this is a period of time where you have to shift your energy and prioritize how you're going to use that energy to be as effective as possible. The reality is life always goes on. Your family is always there, ideally. And you can't just push things to the side, and because something becomes new or energy is required elsewhere, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. And I think that's what causes sometimes a lot of the stress is that, oh man, I'm just so out of balance, and therefore it's a problem. I don't think it's a problem. What you need to look at is your choices and your energy and prioritizing how you spend those things. That's my
Nice.
rant.
Yeah, and I want to add on to what Drew is sharing. Setting clear priorities is really really important, and I know lots of our dads, fathers, male caregivers, yes, you have priorities in the workplace. If not more important, in my opinion, your family priorities are as important, if not more important. Yes, we all need to work to provide for our families, but we also have to have family priorities, and setting those family priorities are so important, because if you don't set them, you're probably not going to meet them.
Yeah, what's the old Zig Ziglar quote? If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. So prioritizing is setting up what you're aiming for, or it's just like Dave Ramsey, and he talks about budgets. You know, a budget is telling your money where to go as opposed to wondering where it went. Right? If you don't have a budget, you don't have a plan, you have no idea where those dollars are going. They're just kind of, next thing you know, it's gone. So having a plan based on what matters most to you, that's what priorities are, is really relevant. So if family time or connection with your family is important, then you need to schedule it. You need to put it in your calendar. You need to set aside and say, here's when I'm going to be present and available for my family. And then you need to follow through it and do it.
I I think a great example, and Drew and myself just did a great recording conversation, and please check it out with Kenneth Braswell. And he gave a number of examples about how his family is a priority, even to the point that Mr. Braswell's been working in the fatherhood space for like 35 years. And he gave us an example during, like, whenever he's at a conference doing a speech or presentation, he always has his phone with him. And got now people say he always has his phone even doing a presentation. He says yes, because if he gets a call or a text from any member of his family, he'll say, "Excuse for a moment, I got to take this call."
Actually, he told us he's really good. He can keep his speech or talk going and text back, you good. And if they respond, you good, that they're good, then he's like, okay, then I don't have to take it. But if they're not, he's like, he will absolutely stop, take his call, and make sure that his family knows that he's always available to them.
Yeah, I think that was an incredible example of prioritization in regards to his family. What are your thoughts on that, Drew? Was it a good example?
Powerful example. And really important because clearly that's a priority for him. And he talked about the idea of your children or your family knowing that you are available to them and how important that is for their safety, their security, their overall well-being, and sense of, if ever I'm in need, I know that I can contact dad and he'll be there for me. And there's a lot of safety and security that comes in that. So I think it's important.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some practical tips. So a lot of people have heard about the whole 80-20 rule. And we're suggesting here focus on 20% of the activities that bring 80% of the value. And we always say it's not how much time you're spending with your child or children, it's what you're doing with that time. And Drew, what examples do you can bring either through your lived experience or through other fathers where you that 80 to 80-20 comes into effect?
I think of the fatherhood superpower play. So I would take my kids to the park when they were a little bit younger. I mean, we'll still every now and then go, and they're a little bit older now, but
By the way, I'm
there's
missing that you don't have
there's
an. By the way, I'm missing you don't have an ice rink this year. There's certainly enough snow, but we'll get to that another
you're
time.
right. You're right. Going to the playground and playing with them at the same time as getting a little bit of work out of it. So I would run around with them. I would do push-ups. They'd jump on my back. It's like horseplay. I'd squat. I'd pick one of them up. They'd put them over my shoulders. They're my weight as I'm squatting. There's so much fun and great memories that came from that. And that let's say 40 minutes at the park with my kids provided so much value, both for me and for my kids. That I'd say that was to me. If I could prioritize anything and I had some time with the kids, let's get outside, let's go to the park, let's go do something physical and active. I enjoyed it. I got a benefit. They had fun. We just bonded and connected. And fathers and play and rough and tumble play is literally like our superpower. So for me, you know, you want to focus on something you can do in a short period of time because maybe you're busy, you've got a lot going on, you're not even maybe you don't even get to see your kids that often. This is like literally step number one. Do this, play, enjoy time with the kids. That to me is great.
I'll just add on before we move on to our next point. Schedule family time like a work meeting. And to me, that's as more important than a work meeting. Make it a non negotiable. Scheduling family time. Treat it as a non negotiable because not only will you feel better, your family's going to even value you even more as a father, as a dad. When you say you're intentional, unless there's an emergency, again, using Mr. Braswell's example, unless it's an emergency, family first. Family first. All right, let's move to our next one. Managing stress and avoiding burnout. Oh, I think our viewers and listeners want to hear what we have to say about this one. And from your lens and from other fathers' lens, I think we can both chat about this, the impact of stress on parenting and relationships.
It's the old adage, the straw that broke the camel's back. Stress is like that, all the straws added on our backs. And, it's like, I think it really limits our ability to fully engage. And I think the other challenge, I am biased because this is more of my experience, is that we often feel like we can handle more, and that our job is to take on more of the stresses and shield our families and just keep going in the face of it without actually healthy outlets for our stress. And I think that leads to burnout. It leads to degradation in our ability to be present and available to our children and our partners. It leads to less tolerance, less patience, more yelling, more anger, more things that take away from the positives that we bring to our families. And it's like that old adage when every time you do something positive, you're putting a deposit in that relationship bank account. Every time something negative happens, you're taking it away. And oftentimes, in because of stress, we actually are doing a lot more taking away in terms of the deposits in the. We're taking money out of the relationship as opposed to depositing it in. And so that's why I think it's many reasons that stress is pretty challenging for dads, and finding healthy ways to manage your stress. The unhealthy ways cause problems, the vices, the poor choices, the lack of exercise, the poor diet, the smoking, the drugs, the alcohol, all these other things that are not healthy for us and only deepen our stress, we'll say, and lead to more burnout.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to piggyback on what Drew is saying there. Be aware of early warning signs of burnout. And most of us, we will know when those triggers or signs of burnout are coming or approaching. Approach them in real time. Don't wait for it to be the extreme where you start yelling, you start going into depression. As much as possible, once you see those early signs, find a way of addressing and combating them. Some practical tips: micro moments of self care, deep breathing, short walks, mindfulness exercises. You can also delegate at work and home. And this is one of the things I really drive home with a lot of busy people that delegation. I always say to dads, fathers, and male caregivers, the one thing you can't buy back is your time. Sorry to say, but not even Elon Musk can buy his time back. Sorry to say that. So you need to be able to delegate and prioritize and then let go of perfectionism. Progress is better than perfection. Progress is better than perfection. Drew, anything you want to add on to those practical tips I just shared with our family?
Yeah, sometimes delegation can be hard when we feel that you know no one's better to do it than us. I remember a good friend of mine who he was feeling the pinch. He was in a little bit of a transition, both in his career, but also family was had just grown again. They were still a little bit surprised by that, and there's a lot happening, and so he was used to achieving so much all on his own. Anyway, so we just had some good conversations, and ultimately, he made a decision around hiring additional help, and he'd done it previous times in other ways, but that just that's I think transformed his ability to do what he needed to do, and to be successful, and his health and his well-being really changed as a result of that. So excuse me. So it sometimes it's hard, and it seems we can't really let go of certain things, but you really can, and it does make a big difference in your how you show up.
Nice. All right. Third thing we're going to chat about today, a third and final thing, is being fully present, quality over quantity. So let's talk about the misconception that balance means equal time for work and family. What do you have to say about that?
Goes back to my first point about integration. Sometimes you have more requirements at work, and you're going to have to invest more time and energy there. Sometimes you need more time and energy at home. You have a sick child, you have a partner who's now engaged in some additional work that she's doing, and you have to support at home. There's family members who need support. There's The reality is life is going to hit. And so it's not about equal, it's about integrating into what is actually going on in your life and back to those priorities. So that to me is important. And the more that you're organized, the more that you plan ahead, the more that you uh, create space for margin in your life, the more that you feel capable and ready to handle life actually hits. So there's some important steps I think that can be helpful in the process of becoming more present, because we have a plan, because we've prioritized, because we've organized our life in ways that we know it's not always going to go exactly the way we want, and we're ready for
Nice. And I just want to add on with what Drew has said that when you are engaged with your family, be fully engaged. Look them in the eye, active listening, mirror and match what's being said. Some practical tips are putting that phone away during family interactions, which can be easier said than done, especially in this era of technology, but also creating small rituals. So if you're a new dad and as your child is growing up, maybe doing a bedtime story, maybe doing breakfast, maybe having a game night. I know a lot of fathers are incorporating having a game night with their kids because it's also a great way of getting integrated with technology because a lot of times they know about more about technology than you do, but you're spending that quality time and creating small good pieces of time that means so much. And also on your commute, call your kids while you're on the phone. Well, carefully. Now we don't want you to like if you don't want you to be screen timing while you're driving, not the best thing to do. But if you can do audio call and you have a Bluetooth or you have a speakerphone in your car, and you can multi-purpose, not multitask. That's a good thing. And maybe listen to audiobooks together. Any other things you want to add on to that, Drew?
it. Yeah, I mean, we haven't really gone too deep into it, but the idea of presence, you I'm a pretty analytical person. Sometimes I'll be lying in bed and I'm wide awake at like 4 or 5 a.m. and just thoughts rolling through my mind. And maybe other dads are like that too, or maybe during the day, it's hard for you to, shut off your mind after you've left work. And so I think the ability to be present is really predicated upon your ability to, I'm not going to say compartmentalize, but to let go of the things once they're done and then shift your focus on what's right in front of you. Sometimes we talked about some practical tips. The idea of breathing. You've shared stories before, Ed, of the dad who came home, sat in the driveway for at least 5 to 10 minutes, and just sat there and decompressed before he actually crossed the threshold and entered into his home. Being present really is a function of our mind and our thoughts. And so for me, practically, that means that you need to be ready to shift your mind and shift your thoughts and shift your focus when it comes time to being with your family and engaged in your family. Don't get me wrong. This is not an easy thing to do, but it really does start with you making the conscious choice to turn your mind off of those other stressors, those other things that are actually going on in your life, and shift it to I am now here, I'm present, I'm focused, and you talk some practical things, eye contact with your family, listening intently, active listening, mirroring back what they've said to you, and just empathizing and acknowledging, not feeling like you need to fix or solve all the problems that are inevitably coming to you each and every day on the home front. Those are very practical and important. So that's my piece to that.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So that's a wrap up for this episode. Again, let's do a little recap. Our takeaways today: prioritize with intention, set clear work and family boundaries. Number two, manage stress effectively, use self care, delegation, and mind shifts. And then finally, focus on presence, not just time. Small, meaningful interactions actually matter the most. And we want to just say too, balance isn't about perfection. It's about making small intentional changes. Drew, do you have a call to action for our family today?
Yeah, my call to action is to try and apply one thing that you've heard from the show that might resonate with you, and apply it every day this week. And then, of course, we'd love if you have applied it to tell us. Let us know what's happened. You can post specifically on our YouTube channel under this episode, or if you want, we're always open. Email us at podcast@dadcentral.ca so that we can continue sharing the stories of success and how dads are being more present and mindful and intentional in integrating all the demands that are on them.
Excellent. So as we wrap up, always want to thank Dove Men Plus Care, who sponsor our show. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. Also, if you, as Drew said, you can always email us at podcast@dadcentral.ca. Also, you can go to our website, get a lot of free resources, dadcentral.ca. As always, I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen or watch us. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. If you're not making history, make money. Good to make both. And then finally, make it better. God bless, peace well, keep the faith, and walk good.